The following movie is rated R.
Welcome back to the R-Rated podcast. Today's guest is Marlon Imprechtinger, and today we're talking about anime. So he actually convinced me to watch some anime shows because I've never watched any anime at all. And how can you make an anime episode without watching? It's been like, I feel like you've tried to get me to watch it for like the past year.
Yeah, probably.
So it took him moving to LA, literally coming over to my house and putting it on for me. But okay, so tell me why you have a love for anime and like what started it for you.
The first time I watched anime, it was when I was actually in middle school, and I remember I was watching on YouTube. I was seeing these like top 10 videos, like like Watch Mojo and stuff. Top 10 like. I know there's a meme about it, but like greatest anime betrayals or something, stuff like that. And I was like, I didn't know what.
See, that's like something I would never click, but
but I didn't really think about it. I was like, 11 or 12 at the time.
Yeah, so it's sick.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I was like, dude, this is kind of sick, right? So I watched an anime on Netflix for the first time. It was Sword Art Online. I was like 12.
Were they always on Netflix? Or because I feel like not until recently they just started dropping on Netflix.
Right.
Yeah.
But this was one of like the more famous shows, I guess. Like a lot of people know, like it's like a famous show. So I guess that they had it on Netflix. Okay. And I was like, okay, like I've never watched.
Which one was this one?
Sword Art Online. It's like I mean, if you know anything about anime, most people know. It's like a famous one.
Okay.
And it was like, okay, so I watched it, and to a 12-year-old boy, that was like the coolest thing ever.
What stood out to you? What was cool about it though? Like, what do you remember where you're like, holy shit, like I'm hooked?
Yeah, okay. Looking back on it, it was okay. Looking back on it, I probably wouldn't feel the same way about it now, but at the time, the main character was very edgy. Like, I'll be honest. And I was like,
like Frosty.
No. He was like, he would wear all black, and he had like 2 swords, and he was like,
Isn't that like goth?
Yeah, I guess, right? But it was like, and he was like, he would only like do stuff by himself because he was like the best, right? Yeah. And he was like he was too good, right? Like he was always better than everyone else. And that's cool.
And
it was cool. And then after I watched that, I would talk to my friends and be like, you guys got to watch this. You guys got to see this. This is sick. Yeah. And then they watch and they're like, this is sick. And then that's what really made me start liking anime. It's because it was
something
like
you could watch with your friends.
Right. Like I would see a show and be like, oh, you guys got to watch this. Or my friends would see a show and be like, bro, you have to see this. Yeah. And then we would talk about it. And it's like, that's when you watch a Marvel movie and stuff, it's like, there's those moments in the movie where you're like, you remember when, Iron Man did this or Spider-Man did that, right? It's like the same thing.
When Iron Man died and I was in denial for a week, I was like, no, bro, like, it's not possible. They wouldn't kill off Iron Man. They wouldn't.
It was like the same thing for me. It'd be like, oh, dude, did you see in like the most recent episode where like, this happened, that was crazy. And then my friend's like, oh, I haven't seen, you can't say anything.
Don't say anything.
Yeah, right. And so that's where it started in middle school. And then when I got to high school, I realized like, damn, a lot of my friends actually, they like anime, they watch it. And
so it continued, like it never stopped. Because I feel like in middle school, you watch a lot of stuff that like you could be into, but then like by high school it changes.
Yeah, and that's a good point because I remember I've always watched anime in phases. Yeah. Like there will be times where I go like 8 months without ever watching an anime. Yeah. But then, like if I'm with my friends and like they're into it and then like I'm into it, and it's like I love having it's like something to talk about, And so, in high school, pretty much all throughout high school, all my closest friends watched anime, and it was like always like a thing. And especially like when a new show would come out and they released episodes every week, like, like any other TV show.
And they're always 20 minutes, no matter what, like 25, 30 minutes.
Like 25 minutes is like
that's the standard anime show run
so,
time.
It's like just long enough to like watch, but it's not it's not.
Honestly, when you were like, watch it, I was just kind of like, oh. But then when you see like 24 minutes, you're like, okay, that's not intimidating. Yeah. Like I can do 24.
But honestly, when you're really into a show, you're like, damn, it's only 24 minutes. But it'd be like every week on, let's say every week on Friday it comes out. It'd be like, dude, first, what I'm doing tonight is watching that show.
And you can binge watch because there's no commercials on Netflix.
Right.
And they all come out at once, right? So
No, that's what I'm saying. So on like when it's a new show, it comes out once a week. One episode a week. So it's like, damn, we got to tune in on Friday. Yeah. See this. You watch it on Friday. You come back to school on Monday. Everyone's like, whoa, did you see that? And it's like, it's so much fun.
Like, what is like super different between all the animes? Like, maybe because I haven't watched all of them, but I, for like the longest time, felt like it's just cartoons and like they're fighting each other.
Right. And I mean,
it's kind of like, that was like the the oblivious way to think about it.
I guess. And I mean, I guess it really depends on the show. You know, they have shows for everything. Like, you know, a lot of people also like watched it as a kid too, like Pokemon.
So it's not always like dark.
No, not most of them aren't dark, to be honest. Like,
really, I'm just watching all the dark.
Yeah, well, no, I recommended those ones to you because I feel like those ones are
because your personality is
no, because I feel like those ones are like it's kind of intense and it's kind of unique in a way.
Yeah, it is. That's why I was like, damn, they're like really intense anime stories, like really short. Like I don't know, like I was just like, are they all like this? Because I feel like every story, it's like. Like life or death situation.
Yeah, no,
you know what I mean?
I feel that, and it's like a lot of the action shows though. There's like different categories basically, you know, and I don't know
in anime.
Yeah, and I don't know, like it's like there's shonen, which is like it's mainly meant for like teenage boys, like I think like 12 to 17.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's like you know. The stuff you usually see, like, oh, like I'm fighting because my friends are giving me the power, you know, and they fight each other, and there's like very little like. The violent, like, you know, they just get like dust on them, right? Like, And then there's, I think it's called seinen, I think is what it is, and that's for like older boys, right? Like 18 and up. And that's like some of the ones you watch where it's like more violent, you know,
like maybe stabbing or something.
Yeah, like stabbing or blood or like if you remember, like
strangling.
Like just like more like intense and gruesome, which. You know, it's not for everyone, but I think that sometimes that's a good way.
It's good though that they're like broadening their audience because like. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of young boys start with that, with it and like want to watch it. But then it's like, as you age, different things interest you. So it's like, if the anime isn't aging with you, growing up with you, it's kind of like outdated. That's what I was going to ask you too. Cause I was like, I think for the longest time I was just confused because I was like, why anime versus like regular cartoons?
Yeah, and I guess the focus. I mean, like regular cartoons. Like to me, it's like like.
Well, do you watch like Rick and Morty? Like
no,
like
those are. I mean, I've seen like maybe episodes or anything, but I don't watch those shows because those are more like comedy stuff, right?
They are more comedy,
and it's like to me, it's like I'm a big fan of superhero movies, right? Like you know, and I like action and stuff. So it's like you know, like the thing, like when you watch like a superhero movie, right, or like an action movie, it's fake and sometimes it looks kind of you know.
So wait, you mean Tom Cruise it's fake?
No, but like so it looks fake sometimes, and you know there's always I feel like you know you kind of have to suspend your disbelief, right? But with the anime, it's like okay, it's fake from the get-go. That means that they can like put more action into it, can be more intense because it's not real people moving. You know, you can do stuff you could never do with real people.
Right.
And you can kind of move it to that next level.
Sometimes feel like, okay, that was a little unrealistic. Like, or do you just let yourself fully immerse in the fantasy?
No, I think I fully immerse in it because a lot of these shows, the premise are like completely, you know, artificial.
It's so out there.
Right. Like
like the one we watched, The Hand.
Oh yeah, right. Parasite. Like, okay, obviously, you know, from the get-go, this is not like
it's gonna be out there.
Yeah. So it's like, you know.
But honestly, that was one of my favorite animes. Yeah. Because I think it was so out there and so different, and I would have never thought of it. And I was like, it's kind of weird. It's kind of creepy. And then the hand starts talking to you. Yeah. And then like, it kind of looks cute a little bit because it has an eye. Yeah. So you're just like, and then it makes you start thinking like, okay, if your hand looked like that, would you want to chop it off? Or would you just like deal with it and let it like say crazy shit to you? Right. Like, oh, I want to take over your brain. I'd be like, what?
I think that's the fun part. It's like, there's, you know, cause they also have shows for girls or shows for older girls.
What's the difference for the girls?
I mean, I think a lot of the, it's hard to say, but I guess like more about like romance or
so it's the same like character style, but like they're just like really in love and
or like
heartbreak is like super emphasized
or no, it's more, you know, like rom-coms or like a slice of life is a big thing too. Like it's like, you know, nothing crazy, just like people doing their daily life, something funny or, you know, something sad or happy, like, you know, like any like kind of like just a regular TV show, right?
Okay.
So it's like they have genres for all sorts of people. I mean, me personally, I like action. That's why I watch it.
Is that your favorite genre?
I guess.
Really? Wow. I didn't know. It's
action or like thriller, I guess. And so they have shows that are like that too. So like, you know, I think you said you saw an episode of Death Note. Yeah. That's more on the thriller side.
I would say that's definitely more on the thriller side.
I feel like a lot of them are funny, like unintentionally.
Yes, exactly. Like I know that they're not trying to crack jokes and like actually have you laugh there, but like the way they act or say things or the way they react, you're just like, that's funny.
And I think that's another good point is like the way they react and stuff. Like I think you watch some of them in English and some of them in Japanese, right?
Huge difference.
Right.
Huge difference. Which I feel like, first of all, because a lot of people, they're like, oh, it's in a different language. They write it off.
Right.
So I feel like with anime, like the first step by giving it a chance is like look past the subtitles, look past it being like in another language.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you can break that barrier, you can actually really enjoy the show. I feel like that for many people is what like holds them back to getting into anime and just any foreign movies in general. Because it's like people are just like, oh, I'm gonna have to read the subtitles the whole time, and then like I've heard people even say like I'm gonna have to read the whole time, and I can't see what's happening, which is like I get that. Yeah. You have to like kind of find the balance of like being able to like read, but also like just watch it and kind of interpret the story for how you want to interpret it. Like I kind of like. Since I don't know, maybe because I was a filmmaker, like in the part like that I didn't understand in Japanese, I was just kind of like, well, I think they're saying this, you know what I mean? And like obviously the subtitles were there, but like it also takes like it takes away from like, you know, like you're reading and then like you're like, But so I was just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna watch it, see like what I think is happening, and then like I'll look at the subtitles, see if it's like kind of correlating a little bit.
And did you prefer it in English or Japanese? What do you think?
Well, it's weird. I have like, okay, so like I can definitely watch shows with subtitles and in a different language. I mean, I've done it with various other shows. Like you saw me the other day. I was watching The Circle. I was watching The Circle France. It was the French version, but I was watching it in German because I understand German with English subtitles. So, I mean, at the end of the day, like I can't sit here and be like, oh no, I had to read the subtitles. It was too hard for me to understand. So no, that wasn't it at all for me. But I think personally, like I like being able to understand the shows, but it does let you be more creative in Japanese. Like it lets you kind of just like wander around, like let your mind wander and be like, okay, like I think this is how it's gonna go down. I don't understand what they're fully saying, but like I think this is how it's gonna play out. And then like either it does or it doesn't, right? So, like,
I mean, this might sound a little bit stupid, but honestly for me it's like maybe just because I've read a lot of stuff. Like even when I watch stuff in English, I put subtitles on.
No, me too. No, I feel like I can't hear, so I have to put subtitles on. So I'm like
so it's like when I read the subtitles, but like something maybe just because I've done it so much, like connects in my brain, like you kind of get in the zone and it almost feels like they're talking in English. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's like
no, but you know what I noticed too when we were watching it in English, and it was still trying to give us English subtitles on the English, but it was already English dubbed. Yeah. So it was like confusing because you would hear it in English, but then the subtitles were different from the dubbing. So then it's like you're hearing it one way, but then you're reading it like something else. Like it's pretty similar, but it's not the same as what they're saying. So it's like, what? Like I'm hearing this, but I'm reading this.
I think it's because they put the subtitles from like the Japanese audio, and so I guess that translates differently to when like they put it into conversation. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I see.
And the other big thing for me is like, because to be honest, I haven't watched an anime in English in like a long time.
Oh, you actually watch in Japanese?
No, I told you I like subtitles and stuff. But the reason why, okay, I have a reasoning. It's not just because I'm like I'm like weird or something. It's because for me, when they talk in English, they talk very like it's
not the same kind of feeling that like the characters are giving. Yeah. Like I noticed that too. I was trying to give an example, but I don't know. Like it's just like not as like emotional or like
or sometimes it's like too dramatic. You know what I'm saying? Like there's like no one taught, like you speak English, you hear people speak English all the time, so you know what it's like supposed to sound like. And for some reason, like just when
it doesn't translate correctly into English, I think. Yeah. Because like that was the same issue with the movies in Austria when we would like live there. Yeah. And then we'd wait for them to dub it in German. It's like it would just be different. Like even the jokes were different. Like I remember there was this one movie that I loved in English. I'm like, it's so fucking funny, the jokes. And I remember I watched it with my Austrian friend in German, and the part where I was like, this part's gonna make you laugh. Like the joke wasn't the same, so it didn't make us laugh. And I was like, damn.
Right. So that's why, like for me, when it's in Japanese, it's like I don't understand Japanese, so like when the characters talk and they're maybe too dramatic or not dramatic enough, I don't know. So like to me, it always sounds like, it could. Yeah, it's like I don't know any Japanese, so it's like basically perfect acting to me, right? But like when you hear it in English, I'm like, okay, that's not how that should sound, right? Right. Yeah. And so it kind of takes me out of it.
Like I feel like if you want the full experience, you have to watch it, in its native language, I guess. Yeah. But there's a lot of people that are like, no, I can't do that.
No, and honestly,
like you can still enjoy the show with it having English subtitles, or even watching it in English. Right. Like, I mean, they obviously want their anime to be successful in all languages, so more than just like, the certain
like only people who speak Japanese or understand Japanese, like they don't want just that to be the audience. They want it to be larger. So I get, like, I'm sure they're probably working on it sounding decent when they're translating it or dubbing it.
And I think like as the years have gone on, they've definitely gotten better too. Because I remember, like, if you watch some like older stuff with an English voiceover, it's like,
really?
Yeah.
Well, but can you imagine though? Like, imagine being like a voiceover actor, and then like they're like, all right, you booked the gig, and you're like, like, what's my gig? And then they're like, you're gonna be the voice of an anime like lead character. So already I feel like that's intimidating. Yeah. Like, you have to sound a certain, like, how would you, like, let's say they're like, okay, read the line, like, I found a notebook and it actually kills people. But you have to say it in that. So how would you go about it, right?
It's like, I don't know,
like,
you know?
Yeah, see, like, I was like, I don't know. Like, I feel like it's a lot easier to be like, oh, you don't sound Japanese enough. But when you're actually, like, in the recording booth trying to do the voiceover, like, I feel like it's like,
definitely harder.
How do I sound Japanese? When I'm watching it, I'm just, like, embracing it, like, taking it in as, like, what it is, like, kind of, like, observing it, trying to learn it. But then when I see it as, like, the filmmaker, I'm like, okay, like, would I have done this? Would I have changes? Because, like, for me personally, when I was watching it, I felt like there were parts that didn't need voiceover.
That's true.
And I felt like it kind of took me out of it because I'm a very creative, like, visual person. And I'm like, I like to kind of like not make up my own shit in my head, but when I'm watching, I kind of like want to feel like I know like what's going to happen.
Like, you can interpret it, right?
Right, exactly. So, like, when you're watching it and then, like, it's just like they're literally telling you, like, this is what's happening. And I'm like, don't fucking tell me. Like, I want to, like, figure it out for myself. Like, I'm smart enough.
That's, you know, like, a big, like, trope,
which I know is a huge part of the anime vibe. It's like just a stylistic factor.
A lot of shows do that. And I mean, honestly, it does get kind of annoying. It's like,
it does though.
They're like, you know, he's gonna do this and then I'm gonna do that.
No, like, he'll literally be like walking on the sidewalk and you see, like, it's like a hot sunny day and there's like some sweat dripping down his face, and then it's literally just like a minute voiceover of him being like, I'm walking and it's hot, oh, there's my old boss, I have to get him to go. Like literally summarizing everything. I'm like, bro, I literally saw the boss pull up. Like, I could have put that together myself.
I mean,
like, why do you think they do that?
You know, I'd say that it's probably because a lot of sometimes they overdo it, and I totally agree. But I think some shows too, it's like, you got to remember, like, this isn't, like, a lot of the stuff is made up, right? Like, you know, if it's a show where and
it is 20 minutes, so they have to explain a lot of things.
Right, and it's like, you know, some people might get lost because sometimes it can be confusing. It's like, you don't understand, like, because they're so foreign concepts, you know? It's like, okay, it's a notebook that kills people when you write in it. And it's like, but why does it kill people? Or how does it kill people? It's like, you don't have anything to base it off. So I think that maybe the creators are trying to
almost dumb it down.
Yeah, to make it so, like, you make it easier to understand, because people are like, oh, I don't get it, or like, it didn't make sense how they I don't get it.
I can't understand this anime.
No, I definitely think they overdo it at some parts, and sometimes it's better to just keep quiet. But, you know, honestly, I feel like in regular movies or regular shows, they do that too. So,
well, and that's just bad filmmaking, honestly. But that's why I was like, in anime, I feel like it's different. Like, it's because in, like, movie making, like in regular movies, like, if the actors are literally saying the answers, it's like, it doesn't make a good movie. Right. Like, what makes a good movie is like, you're like, oh, like, I bet you this is gonna happen, and you can just tell from, like, emotion and them not saying shit. Like, that's a good movie. So that's why with anime I was a little thrown off, because I was like, okay, like, this is a good show. It's a good storyline, but I feel like they're over explaining. Like, I feel like they're giving me too much information that I don't necessarily need. Right. But maybe I also see it differently because I am a filmmaker, and maybe, like, the average person wants that information. I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, am I biased? Like,
well, also, I think another good point to mention, though, is you watched the first episode of, like, 5 different shows, right?
5 different shows, yeah.
So that might be a big thing, because usually the first 3 episodes, it's the learning kind of phase of the show.
Usually by episode 3, like, if you don't know what the fuck's going on in the show,
drop it. Like,
you drop it. You don't move forward. There's been 2, like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like so many of my friends are like, yeah, like, I'm watching the show, it's pretty bad. And I'm like, what episode is it on? They're like, episode 5. I'm like, off the show. Like,
right. And I feel like it's a little easier to do, like, okay, I'll watch 3 episodes because they're only 20 minutes. It's like, okay, like an hour.
Yeah.
And, you know, by the third episode, you know if you like it or not.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And I think they...
Honestly, for me, like, the first 15 minutes, I know.
Right.
Because I learned in film school that if that first 15 minutes, if you're not already into it, you're not going to be into the whole story and the whole movie.
I think that...
And it's true. Like, if something can capture you, it would have already captured you in the first 15 minutes.
Well, I do think that's a fair point. I'm just going to say that because these episodes are divided into, like, smaller, you know, there's smaller chunks of content, right?
True.
And they want to get you into the hook of the story, but also they have to like provide a reasoning, right? So the first episode, second episode, a lot of times I have a lot of like just explanatory information. Right. But then I think a lot of times I've seen shows that are like, oh, the first 2 episodes, I'm like, I don't know about this. But then you get to the third episode and finally it all meshes, you know, it all finally makes sense. Connects. And then you're like, wow, this is actually great. Really and then they don't have to like do that sort of thing anymore. It's like, it's kind of that like introductory phase of a show, which is like, I guess since I've watched a lot of anime, it's like I kind of know that that's coming, and I'm like, I don't really mind it.
You don't mind it,
but I can see how that could like, you know, be annoying to someone who doesn't.
Yeah, really I mean, it wasn't like annoying enough for me to be like, I'm never gonna watch anime again. But I was just like, okay, like if I could like choose, I would maybe want to watch an anime in the future that doesn't have as much like narration or voiceovers or whatever. Like not all of them felt like that. Like it was certain ones that did. Right. Like the what was the one? Was it Demon Slayer? Demon Slayer, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one I felt like was
right. And honestly, rewatching it with you again, I was like, damn, this is pretty like
I think maybe when you watch it the first time, you're like, okay, this is very different. I'm in like immersed in it. I'm gonna take it in like for what it is. But then if you watch it again, it's kind of like, okay, that doesn't necessarily need it. Right. But it's also a style. Like it's their style. And I think the reason why they're popular and do so well is because they stick to their style. It's like traditional. It's different from like any other, like I guess cartoons. Right. Because I was thinking that I was like, what, like why is anime so much more popular, and you know why is there such a big audience for it and not like for adult I mean there is for adult cartoons, but I feel like anime is way more poppin'.
Yeah, and I think in the last couple of years too, it's gotten
so and especially with like social media platforms where like people can dress up and cosplay and like that's really get into it too. Yeah.
But I think one of the big reasons for that is Netflix making their own anime originals and like basically making anime a big part of their platform.
That's true. That was so smart of Netflix.
Yeah, because like, okay, you saw one of their originals, I think The Great Pretender.
Yeah.
Right.
No, and I thought it was really cool. I was going to ask you about that because most anime, they're set in like...
With Japan, I would say. Yeah. Okay. Or like it's some made up world, you know?
Some made up world. Yeah. Okay. So... in The Great Pretender, they're actually in Hollywood, which I thought was cool because I'm like, I feel like you don't really see that in animes. Right. And that's is that been more of a thing, or is that? I mean,
that's what I'm saying. I honestly no, like not most shows. You know, they might mention the United States, but they're not like taking place. And that's why I asked you to watch that one because
it was so different.
Like the whole point of that show is that they're international con artists, so they go to like also they go to like. You know, Hollywood, they go to Dubai,
so every episode they're in a different place.
Not every episode, but like they have like small like story arcs, right? So like, you know, for like 4 episodes they're in Hollywood, and then for like 3 they're in Dubai, you know? And I thought that was cool because it was like, and it's also not like a fantasy show too. It was kind of like a realistic, it's like like if you've seen the show Lupin on Netflix, it's kind of
again, you have to watch it with subtitles.
Right. It's kind of similar to that, you know, like
I mean, like the director of Parasite said, like, if you get over that fucking little subtitle, you can broaden your horizon on so many films.
And I think that the movie Parasite was like a great example of that. Like, for a lot of people, like maybe that was their first time watching it.
I think it was.
And they saw, at least honestly, I thought it was
that was like one of my like first like feature films that I watched in Korean, honestly. Like I never watched Korean movies. Like the only other movies I watched in different languages were like German, Spanish, a little bit of French because of film school. And like, honestly, that's mostly it. So watching a Korean movie and like just the subject, I loved it though. I was super into it.
I loved that movie.
Like I was like, honestly, I feel like it wouldn't have been the same in English.
Right. And that's, I think translates to other, you know, things as well.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this. Out of the shows that you watched, which one did you say you liked the best?
I think the first one,
Parasite. Yeah.
Because it was just so different. I think with Death Note, I kind of knew like what was gonna happen. I you know, because like I knew the Netflix story was based, the movie was based off it.
Yeah.
The movie wasn't that good.
Right,
like it was kind of whatever.
I heard it was kind of.
But since I already knew like what happens in the movie, I knew it was gonna happen kind of in the anime. It was a little bit different, but it was cool to see. I thought it was cool when he was like, "Oh, let's test if it works." He's like watching the news, and then he's like doing it, and he's like, "It didn't work." But then like a minute later, he's like, "Oh, it did work."
Yeah.
And then it kind of creeped me out. I was like, "Damn, that'd be scary." Like if someone actually had like access to this notebook.
And I think it gets.
I do feel like I have to watch more of the episodes to really get into it. But I wanted to at least watch like one episode of each just to kind of like just to know like what is out there. Cause like I said, I always thought it was dark and like all fighting and like all like, oh, let's just like battle it out. Like,
right.
I don't know. I didn't know that they actually had like different genres, like like romance or like slice of life. But that makes sense. Like they have a big audience. They're trying to get like the guys, the girls, like maybe
the young
even
people,
like
the old people. Of
like
those 5 that you watched, I think Parasite might be my favorite too.
Oh, really?
But I'm not going to say why, but I think that as it goes on, it definitely gets a lot more like another big thing too. So we were talking about how Netflix started their anime originals, right?
I was going to ask you what, like if you think that Netflix can compete with like the regular anime, like Crunchyroll
or like Funimation and stuff. Definitely, because Netflix is Netflix. It's like the most used streaming platform.
It is, but people have been saying like, oh, like do you think Netflix is still going to be as poppin' as it is because like HBO Max is coming out with a lot of shit, Peacock, like all the platforms have like all these new movies, and it's like Paramount Plus, like literally I feel like every week there's a new platform
streaming that's true, and
which is stressful.
I think that's why Netflix is doing such a big thing with taking on these animes, because like even
like we have everything.
And like even Hulu has anime on it too, but like the selection on Hulu is like maybe like smaller. And then Netflix is making their own anime, which is genius to me. It's like
a own anime category,
Netflix originals, right? Like The Great Pretender is only on Netflix. It's made by Netflix, right?
Wow.
Or there's another one, Castlevania, or they have a bunch of shows that are only on Netflix, made by Netflix, and that's so genius. It's like how do people want to see? People love anime. It's like a huge like thing right now, and if you can only watch it on Netflix, that's great for them, because people will come in, and the people who love anime, I feel like really like anime. And
do you think the hardcore anime fans that are like, we've been with anime since the beginning, like, do you think they are like the Netflix anime, or do you think they think it's kind of like too?
Well, I know what Netflix has been doing is been taking popular. Okay, so a lot of times before anime is like a TV show, it's like a comic book called manga.
Oh, okay.
So
that's kind of where it starts. Like
so like manga. A lot of times they start as manga, which are like basically comic books, right? Okay. And then they adapt that to animation. But so what Netflix has done, they've made their own shows, right? But they've also taken popular manga and actually adapted it.
Made it.
And people love that. Because people are like, oh, I love that
story. Like, I wish it was a show.
Right, because, it's so much more immersive when it's a show, right? And so people are like, oh, Netflix is making it into an anime. And then everyone's like, oh, I got to, get on Netflix to go watch it, And I think that is like so smart, because they're winning over the audience just like that. And like, even me, like one of my favorite series is a show called Jojo's Bizarre Adventure.
Why?
It's like it's kind of it's funny because it's like they dress really like crazy. They do like crazy poses. Yeah. Like a lot of people, it was a big trend on TikTok to do like the poses from the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No. Like, no. But they like, and all the like their abilities are based off of like they're like music references from like old bands. Like it'll be like a guy and his name is like AC/DC or something. It's like it's kind of like as the show says, it's kind of bizarre in a way, right? And I think it's cool. And that's a hugely popular show. Yeah. And now Netflix is making it so the newest season is now only on Netflix, and it comes out this year. They had like a whole thing about it. And so that show has a huge audience. I know I'm definitely going to watch it on Netflix. Okay. It's like, that's a big thing for people. So like if they can even do that, where they get all pre-existing shows and get them to move over to Netflix, like that's even
that is like that for sure is going to sell no matter what. Because I was like, if they're getting already like stories that are known and like people have read, and then they're literally making the show, like 100% makes sense why they're killing it. But I'm like, if they're just writing it from scratch and trying to enter the anime world, like
then it's got to be good,
right? So I'm like, are they doing their job like according to like?
You know what
I mean? Like, are they on that same level of like?
Yeah, I mean, I know they've done a few. To be honest, I'm not familiar with all of the like 100% original stories, but I know that some of the adaptations they've done have kind of been mixed. but I don't know if they have their own like production stuff. I don't really know how it works, but I know that some like shows, I think there was one called Record of Ragnarok. That was like a huge, like a really popular manga. And then they made it into an anime and people were like, the animation kind of sucks. It's like, it's not that good. And people were disappointed. So it's like, I think if you're taking a series that people really love and adapting it, you got to make sure you do a good job.
If you're going to take something that's already known and popular, you have to do a good job executing.
Right. And I think okay, let me ask you this. When you watch the shows, because you're a director, right?
Yeah.
That's your thing. Did you ever feel like there was like any of your directing like expertise or something, like even with just the way they framed everything or like where the people were placed or how they talked and stuff? Does any of that like carry over? Did you feel like there was like some actual like technique?
No, I mean,
they
definitely like the way to make it more dramatic, like if like something intense is going to happen or they're scared, they like do tight, like it's just like their face or like their eyes and like this like intense look. So like they definitely use like directing techniques that you would use in regular filming, making movies in the anime. Which is like, you don't even really think about it because you're like, oh, it's a cartoon, like they're just drawings.
Like they can do it however
it's the same formula. Like it's still going to translate to being just as dramatic, even if it's a cartoon or an anime, to like if it's a real person, like the way you set up your angles and the shots. It's all about storyboarding when it comes to anime and cartoons. But you also storyboard when you make
a real movie, right?
Exactly. Like, I mean, well, I stick figure because I can't draw. But I'm assuming that like, when the director of the anime like show is doing the storyboards or like they're creating the show, like for example, they'll have like the opening shot, let's say it'll be like the establishing shot, and then it'll be like maybe a close up of his face, like his eyes opening up from like it's morning, he's waking up, and it's like like maybe something loud woke him up, so it's like the intense eyes, and it's that like every frame just like adds so much to it. So it was interesting watching it because I'm like, okay, like it all connects. I'm like, okay, this means that there's probably something gonna go down because they're showing like this angle or like low angle. And it takes a certain type of person to create that kind of stuff. Like I feel like I wouldn't be able just to come up with like an anime and like, you know what I mean? Not just anyone can do that.
Because it's different to control like a real person and like, something that's like completely like drawn.
And it's also a specific type of like well, the anime's not acting, but like they're acting in a certain way, or like the motion and everything. Image that they're perceiving, and like
one thing that I thought was really cool, I don't know if you found that yet, maybe just because you just watched the first couple episodes of shows, but I found that like some shows they do like, like you see a movie and you see like a shot that you're like, damn. That was cool. A couple shows,
every time I see one, I'm like, I'm gonna use that in my next
show. Like I saw like some of the animes, like sometimes they do shots where it's like that, like even for like I'd be like, wow, like if you saw it in a movie, you'd be like, okay,
it would be dope.
Like in Death Note, there's like way later in the show, like maybe on like the 20 or 30 episodes in, there's like a scene where, the main character, he's like about to do something kind of like bad, right? He's like doing something evil. And there's like a glass staircase, right? Like next to him. And he's kind of standing behind the glass staircase and it shows him like far away. And one of his eyes is like obscured by the glass staircase. So it kind of looks like one eye is here, one eye is there, and it looks like very like scary in a way.
See,
because like when you look through like glass, it kind of like adjusts the image, right?
See, and that would be cool to actually use in real life. Like I feel like watching certain anime shows, you would get ideas of like that would be a sick thriller shot, like for a thriller film, or like drama or something.
So I think that there is
honestly, I'm sure directors do steal like from cartoons and anime because I feel like it's almost easier to. Because like when you steal certain shots from movies, it's like, bro, like
we all know what you're doing.
Or like, you know what I mean? But it's like not everyone's gonna know like, oh, you stole that shot from Death Note. But they might in the future because it is getting more popular and more trending.
And I think another big thing, like you said, it's getting more popular and more trendy. But like if you look at like even just the number side of it, like everyone knows Studio Ghibli, right? Like Spirited Away, My Neighbor Totoro, right? Like for a long time.
I would say Spirited Away is probably the first. It's considered anime, right?
Well, anime just means any like animated show from Japan. Okay. That's what is like makes
the definition. Okay.
But so those movies were like huge, like everyone knows those movies.
I watched Spirited Away when I was probably like 8 or 9 years old. That I loved it. It was so, I was like, whoa. It was just so out there. That was like the first and only, and then I kind of like just never.
But so those shows were like at the top, highest grossing anime films. I think was Spirited Away or something like that, right?
That makes sense.
And then now, I think about 2-3 years ago, an anime movie came out called Your Name, and I haven't seen it, but everyone that I that has seen it has told me about it. Has said it's fantastic. Like it's
really?
like they said it's like one of the best movies they've seen. Like so like emotional and intense. I was
emotional.
No, like serious. Like people like I have like friends that are like guys and they're like, dude, like I am not even gonna lie, I cried at the end of it. Like I was like, damn, I want to see this movie, but like that, I know that movie. I don't know if it got nominated for an award, but I think it did, and it also became the highest grossing animated movie, anime movie. After Studio Ghibli had their movies at the top for like 20 years, right? Or right? Wow. And then now, even more recently, I think last year or this year, it came out in US theaters, is the Demon Slayer movie, right?
Yeah.
And Demon Slayer is like a huge series, probably like the most popular at the moment.
Yeah.
And that movie now just became the highest grossing anime movie.
Really?
And I actually went and saw that one. In
theaters?
They were playing it in the theater.
How was it? Was it even better than?
Oh, it was sick. I'm gonna be honest, I'm a big fan of the show. Okay, and normally I watch it on my TV in my room, right? Yeah. It's on a huge movie theater screen, and you're sitting in the night, it was so.
It doesn't compare.
It doesn't compare. It was so cool. It was I was there with my 4 of my best friends, and we were watching. It was like everything that I could have hoped for in that movie. I'm serious.
Honestly, that's pretty sick though. That you can walk out of a theater and be like, it was everything.
Yeah, remember when you saw Infinity War, Avengers Endgame and stuff. You're just like, damn, everyone was going wild. The craziest part was that same level of excitement and hype within the theater when I went to go see it.
Really?
People when one character showed up or did a signature move, people
really?
And it was fun. I thought it was a lot of fun.
What was the demographic in the theater? Was it mostly young guys or were there girls there? I'm trying to just see what the vibe of anime is. Who's their audience?
The craziest part was there was a little bit of everybody. It was me and my friends were all 18-year-old guys, right? But then there was girls, older guys, younger, people who were younger, maybe 14 or so. There's people of all ages. And I think I think it really does appeal to the same people who like those superhero movies, You love superhero movies. I love superhero movies. I went to the theater. There's a 40-year-old guy sitting next to me, and he loves the movies just as much as I do. Or a 12-year-old.
When I went to go see Avengers Infinity War, the guy started crying when Iron Man died.
The Endgame, yeah.
He literally was tears just straight. Yeah. And I could tell, and I was just but I just wasn't such denial about Iron Man. So I was Marvel wouldn't do that. Yeah. I was it doesn't make sense. So I was no. And so when he was crying, I was Iron Man's literally gonna come alive in the next scene. Yeah. And they're like, no, he really got all the characters he's really dead. Yeah. And then I was wait, is this real? I was everyone's safe.
Stop.
And then I was looking around, and the guy was just
yeah.
Literally, if he just found out his dog died, I was oh no. And that's when I knew it was real. I was bro, if the guy next to me is crying for 30 minutes, it's real.
And it's the same thing the anime movie. The one I saw, there's a big emotional scene, something happens, and people I know, not in the theater sitting next to me was my friends. Okay, none of us cried. Or at least not that I know of, right? Well, in secret, there might have been some tissues pulled out, right? Yeah. But I've talked to some people about the movie, and they're oh yeah, that scene, I was bawling. It was
what was so dramatic about that scene?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a spoiler, so I don't know if I should say it, but something happens, and it's totally it's really emotional.
Changes your life.
No, even I was damn,
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's I think it definitely can be an emotional experience too for a lot of these shows. It's not always just about cool animation or cool fighting.
Yeah.
Or
I feel that's why it would probably do better too, because I feel if you're covering stories that are more relatable to people watching, especially the younger audience, I feel they're gonna just relate in the show more versus if you're always just showing fighting and killing, that's cool and entertaining, but you're not gonna be able to relate to that unless you're a serial killer. But you can only relate to it so much, right?
But I mean, did you ever feel any of those shows? I mean, I guess it's hard to say in the first episode. You don't really have the emotional
I feel
connection.
I have to definitely watch more anime to really see if I can relate or feel more than oh, it's cool and I appreciate the art form of it. But now that I have started watching it and gave it a try, I'm more accepting of it. I'm okay, I can actually watch. So I was just so intimidated at first. I was just I really don't think it's my vibe.
Yeah.
Because I definitely liked cartoons as a kid. I loved cartoons as a kid.
Right.
I would always watch all of them. But then once I reached high school, I didn't watch cartoons. And then I really don't watch the cartoons. I've tried to. I've given them a chance. But it's all just like really raunchy. Like, right. And is that the puberty monster thing? Is that the one with the puberty monster?
I don't know. See, I've never watched. This is the one with the guy's a horse.
Yeah. Okay. Oh no, the guy's a horse. No, that's a different. What's the one where it just came out? It was like this new. I can't think of the name. It's this new cartoon. It just came out on Netflix. It's definitely an adult one. It literally reminds me of like what we've been talking about, and it's about this like cartoon characters that are like basically in middle school, right? And they're like hitting puberty. Yeah. So like there's like this puberty monster, and it literally looks like a fucking furry monster, and it like will like be the voice of reason basically, and he'll just be like, oh my god, like my balls are so itchy, and I don't know why, like just stupid shit like that. And the puberty monster is like, oh, you probably have like chlamydia, like just like making like stupid like perverted jokes, which like I get it's funny to like certain people, but I'm like, you kind of have to be in the mood for it. Like, okay, I want to laugh about stupid like dirty high school jokes or stuff like that. It's not really like you're not connected for like, oh wow, like I can relate. Like that's it's just like kind of stupid shit. You're like South Park. It's like it's kind of stupid. It's funny. It makes you laugh. It's like a no brainer. You don't really have to think. It's like shows like that. So I was just like, I'm not really into like cartoons right now because I'm like, to be honest, like the jokes are just kind of stupid, and I just like it. If I want to like listen to jokes and stuff, I listen to stand-up comedian shows because they're just stand-up comedy is way more funny. They're a little better, They're just like more raw, more real. You know what I mean, and no filter. Yeah. So I'm like, I'd rather watch that, but that's kind of why I never was really into the cartoon thing, and I kind of just mixed anime into the adult cartoons. I was kind of like, I feel like it's just gonna be cheesy and stupid like that, but it's actually very different. Right, and I feel like is something you have to like point out and like address because I feel like people are gonna. Like, if you don't know anything about anime, you're going to just be like, oh, it's some, like, stupid cartoon. Right. And I think that's, like, the biggest thing is, like, once you get over the hurdle of, like, actually just trying to watch it once, I think people, like, actually start to get a love for it. And, I mean, I know definitely a lot of people that I know watch it. Like, not even people you wouldn't even expect. Like, I have friends. Really? Like, I mean, a lot of it, like, it's, like, a total, like, popular thing. Like, I feel like now more people, I don't know, okay, this might just be a biased statistic. I'm like, just your friends. No, but I'm saying like almost everyone that I talk to has seen anime in one shape or another. Like, because you got to think too, going back, like a lot of these shows have been around for a long time, or like, you know, like people watched it as a kid, like Pokemon, you know, people saw it as a kid, or like Beyblade, Yu-Gi-Oh. Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, like those Dragon Ball, Naruto. That's like the OG anime. Right. And also some of these have been around for years. Like, okay, right now you're wearing a Naruto shirt, right? Okay, everyone. Here's my shirt. Naruto shirt, right? And Naruto, I think the anime started in 2003. I was like just born. That's when he was born. I was born when it started. And it just finished like 2 or 3 years ago. That's what I'm saying. It ended. Yeah, like it's finally. How many seasons did it have? I think it had 17 seasons. No, it had 2 like parts. There was Naruto and then Naruto Shippuden, which is like the characters are older. It's like they grew up. Yeah. And so I think Naruto Shippuden had 17 seasons. And then the first part had like maybe, I don't know, 8 or 9. But I'm saying like I remember talking to our cousins and they're like, you know, just as old as you or like maybe a year younger. And I'd be like, oh, you know, I just started watching Naruto. And dude, I watched that when I was like 12. Yeah. And it's still going. And I was like, yeah, it's crazy, huh? Yeah, and that is wild. And that's like a real binge because like, dude, like Naruto is like 700 episodes. That took me like 700 episodes? Right. And wait, you actually think people have watched all 700? I've almost watched. I'm like at 600 Holy episodes. Shit. But like I've been watching that show since like 8th grade, to be fair. So like it's taken me, but I know people who knock that shit out like it's no problem. Like they'll draw. And how long is each episode? Oh, they're 20 minutes. That's like the standard. Or like 24, but the intro and outro. I've definitely binge watched some shows. Like I know I have it in me to do it, but I'm like, 700 episodes, that's a fucking commitment. Right. But those stories, like when you think about it, it's like on one hand, it's like, wow, that's such a ridiculous commitment. But two, it's like you can tell a story that's like on such a grand scale that you can just think about that. Like 700 times 20 is like 14,000 minutes, I think. That's like, think about how much like content that is, right? Like you can tell a story with like so many characters, side characters, story arcs. Imagine like, somebody's like, okay, we have 14,000 minutes to kill. Yeah. Write something. I'd be like. And you know what? That's not even like one of the longest shows. There's another show that's still ongoing that I haven't watched because I'm honestly like, this is way too long. I can't do it. It's called One Piece. Okay. It's a really famous series. And when did it come out?
maybe I think early 2000s or maybe the 90s. I'm not sure, but this series is still ongoing today. Like it's still being written in like manga form, and then they adapt it as an anime. I think right now it's like at 1,100 episodes, and it's like the author said that he's like a little over halfway through with the story he wants to tell. And I'm like,
I'd be like, bro.
I mean, honestly, it's impressive to me. Like you have that much of a story you want to.
No, honestly, people. That is like I've always thought that was super amazing. Even when I watch regular shows or even when I watch cartoons, I'm just like you have to have an idea, right? But you have to be able to grow and expand from that idea, because like I've like thought of stuff and I'm like, oh, like that would be a cool show idea. But then I was like, but then you have to introduce this character like in episode 2 or 3. You can't just introduce him right away. And then it's like, how is this going to relate to that? And how are you going to have like a plot twist? You know what I mean? It's like there's a lot that goes into making a show. It's a lot different than making a movie. Because in a movie, you're trying to get all the information, cram it all in that hour and a half, hour 45 minutes.
Right.
But in a show, it's like you have a lot longer to like reveal and like show who are these characters, where are they from, who are their friends, you just have the time to drag it out, so it's like you can write more about who they are. And I feel like that helps with connecting to the characters, because it's like you had a whole episode of like just finding out like who they are, where they're from, where they're like what's their daily routine. Like in a movie you don't have time to you have to like do that in a minute. Like the first scene has to show like, okay, where are we, like what's their job, what's the character like arc, what's their goal. Like in the first like minute we already have to know that. In the show it's like we don't have to know that right away.
Or and how in the show also you can show like how it changes or like is affected by like things that happen.
And you can go back to things. So, like you can like bring it up a little bit in like an episode and then revisit it in like episode like 3 or 4.
And you know what's really cool?
Which you can't do that in a like if in a movie if you pull something, like if you like let's say I like show this like cup, like I zoom into this and then I never revisit it, it's like, well, why did she do that? Right? It's like, why did we see this cup?
Right.
Like you're gonna leave the theater and be like, so what was the
deal with the
cup?
Like, I think a good part of like the longer format, especially like these long shows in anime, like there's a very popular series called Attack on Titan. This is like one of the ones people say is like one of the all-time best shows, right? Yeah. And you see things that happen in season 1 in like the first like 10 episodes, like the way a certain character is fighting the other character, like in their sparring practice, and like a certain move they do with their hand. And then you flash forward like 2 seasons and you realize that like gesture, that little gesture they were just doing with their hand actually revealed something way back then that you didn't realize, and you only now notice because of the context that you had. And it's like when you see that and you're like, damn, like
dude, that's so elaborate. Like how do they think about that kind
it's like if I knew that, like if I was paying enough attention, maybe I would have caught that way back then.
There's actually a lot of things that I feel like if you, I mean, even in movies and shows, like if you pay a lot of attention, there's certain things that you won't catch the first time watching. Like even me, like I'm like, oh, I love this movie, and I've maybe watched the movie like 5 times. Like for example, like Mean Girls, I've seen the movie so many fucking times, like over 20 times. But there's always something where I'm like, I didn't know that. Like, oh, that makes sense why they added that in there, or like, oh, they put that in because it's gonna come out later, or like, oh, like she said that was foreshadowing. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
Like everything kind of just like pieces together. So it's really interesting to see how that all goes down. But I wanted to show you one of my friends. She is like kind of trending on TikTok right now. She has like all these like followers. She really likes anime. She like dresses up as like these different cosplay, like anime characters, and then like does this whole like
makeup and
So I wanted to show you and see if you I wanted to like almost like quiz you, see if you like recognize or if you can name like who it is.
Yeah, a big thing too that's made anime more popular too is TikTok for sure, because that's a thing that people do. They pose like an anime character, or they wear the same outfit, or their hair like them, or I've even seen like where people splice together like the animation of the show with like their own movements, so it kind of looks like they're mirroring it. It's like really cool.
Sick.
Like a character will swing the sword in the show, and then they'll
it like turns into
or they'll even do it like where they'll like hit the pose and then it turns into the character.
That's pretty cool.
So it's like I think that people see that and they're like, oh, that was cool. What's that?
And I feel like also with like like Comic-Con's like a huge thing,
right?
Like, that's another place where I saw a lot of the anime characters, and I was still like very like I still didn't like know much about anime, so I would see all these people dress up, and I'm like, it's cool, and they give cool hair, but I'm like, I don't know like what this show's from, or like where you're from. Right. But now I'm like, oh, okay, it makes sense. I'm like, and now like looking back at some of the anime, like, oh, he was dressing up as that dude. Like, I'm like, oh, duh.
Yeah. I think conventions are a big part of it too. Like, you know, they have anime conventions too. I've never gone to one personally.
But you would go if you could.
Maybe I would consider it.
I feel like you would. Like,
I think it'd be cool just to see. I don't know if I would dress up, but I think it'd be kind of fun because, you know, it's like people who like that sort of stuff, right?
Of course.
And it's like maybe you drag a friend who doesn't really know what it is along with you, and then maybe they get into it, or maybe someone sees like a photo of a cool cosplay and they're like, oh, that was cool. Like, what's that from? Okay.
Right. So she has like over 100K followers. She's like almost 2 million likes.
Wow.
Okay.
Is that from like something Monogatari or something?
I think Gender Baku?
Oh, Fembaku. This what she did is she took a guy character and
made it a girl?
And made it a girl character. That's another thing that people do.
Cool.
They like to like gender swap the characters, which I think is fun. That's why I was like, I don't know. I don't recognize it. And a lot of times what they'll do, they'll make guy characters have long hair. They take guy characters, they have them look kind of not feminine, but like young in a way, like long hair, or like, you know, they kind of like have a round face and stuff. And then through the story, like something happens to them, or like they train,
have a transformation,
and they kind of like physically, not only like transform in like their powers or whatever, but like physically, right? Like their hair gets cut.
Why do they transform from this like skinny guy to like this like big buff? Like like, what do you think that means? Like, why is that?
I mean, I think it's just like everyone's.
Do you think it's like that like stereotype of like wanting to be buff, like when you're really skinny? Or something?
Like you remember seeing the Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire? Like he's a skinny guy. He gets bit by the spider, and then the next day he wakes up and he's a perfect body.
He has black eyeliner on, and he's like,
or like even like Captain America, he's like a skinny guy, and he gets injected, and he comes out, and he's like perfectly built.
Ass.
Right? I could be like that guy. You know, I could like if I put in the training or something. You know, like I can be like this built guy who like, you know, always stands up for what he believes in and something. And I think that's kind of fun, you know, it's like, it's a good thing, I guess, to like encourage people, you know, like hard work will get you to like your goals and stuff.
It will.
Oh yeah. So that's, Deku from My Hero Academia.
Yes, it is Deku.
That's another thing that I think makes it great for cosplaying is that these characters look very unique. You know, they have colored hair or like kind of funky outfits, right? So like, you know, even if she's a girl and the character's a guy, right?
Yeah.
I can still tell that's who that's supposed to be because she, you know, has the green hair, the curly green hair, and like the blue kind of tracksuit, right?
Okay.
So it's like kind of.
So it like actually looks.
Yeah, it does.
What about? Let's try.
Oh yeah, and that's Nezuko.
Nice.
Like that's another thing. Look, she's like the
hashtag Nezuko.
Like the bamboo in the mouth.
See, like I wouldn't know any of these.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like they have those kind of recognizable features or those like kind of unique things about them, and you can see that and be like, oh, I know what this is from.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the girl from My Hero Academia. I don't remember. Toga, something. Toga him.
Toga.
Yeah.
Literally Toga.
Yeah. So. Yeah, see, like the
Tori, I'm gonna post all your screenshots on my video so everyone can see it. You're killing it.
Good job.
Keep continuing the TikTok. She started it and she's been killing it. Like her fan base, they're like, please do this anime. Please dress up as this character. And she does like giveaways and like
that's fun.
All kinds of stuff. And I think she started it here when she was in LA, but she moved back home to Brazil. So she's been doing her TikTok from Brazil, which is cool. I'm like,
that's fun.
But yeah, she's like the one of the few people that I know that has like really like gotten into anime and really like dressed up and like done all. I'm like, okay, that's sick. I was like, she's really going out after it and like, you know, getting into dressing up and like, I think it's fun. And like she has like different contacts, wigs, and costumes, and like people really are into her, like her videos, and like they like her dedication to it. And I get it. Like I feel like if you watch like a cartoon that you grew up with or that you really enjoy, like, and then your friends or someone on TikTok is like, you know, like dressing up as that, bringing it to life, you'd be like, wow, this is fucking sick. So like, I get why like the anime and TikTok world is like popular and popping off the way that it is. I don't know if I would be able to pull it off, but it's pretty fucking sick. Do you think the music has a big part of like the show.
Okay, to be honest, it's not my thing. I don't really care for the intros and outros, but I know people who are like, oh man, this music is like crazy. And I'm not gonna lie, there are some songs that it's like, wow, this is like, it really adds to it. Like, when you watch
it makes you more emotional. Right. It makes you feel more attached. Like whenever, like honestly, you could add, like the music adds so much to this. Right, like imagine, there's actually, it's really funny. You guys should check it out. It's on YouTube, the Frozen trailer. Right, the Frozen, the animation movie.
Yeah.
Obviously, like it looks like a happy, normal, like kids movie, right? Yeah. But they changed the music to it. They substituted it with like a thriller, like horror music, and then it like totally changes the vibe of the story. Yeah. Then it looks like it's like da da da, and it's like the sister like gets ice powers, and she almost freezes her whole village. Almost kills her sister by accidentally, like, and it goes from like this happy, like, will you build a snowman with me? To like, she almost killed her sister. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. She has to like separate herself or else like she's gonna like literally like freeze the whole village. Like it literally just changed the whole mood. So music does add so much in like shows and movies. So I feel like in anime, I feel like that's a huge part of it too.
But okay, so like I said, I don't really like most of the songs, but some, like occasionally I'll watch a show and I'll hear an intro, and maybe because it sounds a little more Western, like, like American music, I really like it. But there's a couple, like there's a really popular one that I think people know is iconic. It's called, it's from a show called Cowboy Bebop, which is like a really, it's a really like famous show. Another one that people say is like one of the all-time greats from the 90s, I think. Okay. And the intro is like totally unique because, a lot of times it's like Japanese singing, right? Like it kind of sounds like the, like some girl singing Japanese. This one, I don't know if you're allowed to play music or something on the podcast. It's called Tank is the name of the intro. And so, Tank. Right? So you think it's going to be like some Japanese singing, right? Of some girl or something singing, right? And like, you're not going to understand it, but this is how it sounds.
Cool. Like I feel like somebody's watching fast-paced.
And then listen, it's kind of different. So when you hear
22 million views.
Sometimes they don't subtitle the theme song, so it's kind of hard to tell what they're saying.
Right.
And Netflix has the skip intro button, and sometimes when you're just knocking them out, you gotta hit it.
I'm guilty of that too, like skipping forward or skipping through, especially But I mean, I do want to say watch the intro at least once.
Yeah.
And then just watch it once because it's like, do it for the filmmaker, do it for the director, do it for the DP. Right. I'm like, they did spend time trying to make this little intro for you, so just watch it once. I'm not saying watch it all the time because I don't even do that either. So, but at least acknowledge it once.
I think that's a fair way to do it. And honestly, I used to do that too. I'd every time there was like a new intro or something, I'd watch it the first time. But now I'm like, man, I'm just trying to get to business. Like, I'm here to watch this. I want to see what's going down.
It's going down in the anime. Well, wait, who are you wearing?
To be honest, I don't know. I just saw this shirt at Macy's and I thought it was cool, so I just bought it. And I can't read Japanese, so I don't know what it says. But you're wearing Sasuke. And that's another big thing. Anime has become like a big like streetwear, like fashion kind of thing.
Yes, I've actually just watched The Hype on HBO Max. Offset's the judge. It's pretty cool. They cover streetwear, and it's a lot of just like anime shirts, baggy like jeans, and just like cutoffs, like patches. It's really cool. I think you guys should check it out too if you're into fashion. But I do think it is a good streetwear. Like, honestly, I almost see myself wearing it more as like a streetwear than like actually watching the episodes. Right. But I'm glad that I watched episodes because now I have a better understanding of it, and I'm not like, oh no, I'm not gonna shut it down for no reason. Like now I know, like, okay, there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of different topics, genres. It's not all thriller. If you don't like one, that doesn't mean you're not gonna like the other ones. Right. I feel like that's a huge thing to point out because like. I feel like depending on what you watch, which anime you watch for the first time, and if you don't love it, you're going to think they're all like that. Right. So I'm like, for the people who haven't watched anime, if you don't like the first one, give one more a chance. And if you don't like that one, then maybe anime is just not your thing. Yeah, right. But give it a chance, right? Like, of course. I feel like if it can relate to something that you are doing, going through, have seen, then you're probably going to like it. Or you're interested in. Or sometimes it's like, maybe you like watching stuff that you could never imagine yourself doing.
Right.
That's another like cool thing. So, and for me, that's personally more my vibe. Like when I watch the anime, I hope my arm doesn't, like my hand doesn't start fucking growing and I ain't talking anything. But like, I like, that one was my vibe because I was like, okay, it's different. It's different. I think Death Note, like the reason why Netflix wanted to pick it up as a movie as well is because it's a cool concept. Writing down a name in a notebook and then them dying. Like that's pretty fucking cool. I wish I would have thought of that. You know what I mean? And then like Netflix coming in and doing like their own anime and then also bringing in like different parts of the world. It's not just like Asian places. That's cool too. Like I think that's gonna really make it like a whole nother level. So I'm sure, but like in another year, we're gonna see so many like anime Netflix specials, originals. For sure. And I'm sure it's just gonna keep growing and growing. And I feel like it might get popular enough where like anime movies will be playing in theaters like
all the time. Honestly,
like a cartoon, and I even thought about this. I was like, damn, it would be pretty cool if it was like in 3D. Right. That would be cool. Because they have a lot of like cool, crazy shit going down. And I feel like if they added the 3D factor, that would be really sick. So that could be something that we look out for next. That could be the future of animation. I don't know. If it is, hit me up. I need a job. But awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about anime. I think like it helped me open my eyes on like what it's all about. People who don't like or like gave it a chance, I feel like this is a good reason to give it a chance and check it out. And for anime lovers, hopefully you enjoyed the episode and you were able to connect, and hopefully you like my shirt and his shirt. Too. Maybe you can translate his shirt so you can figure out what he's saying or what he's wearing. That would be nice too.
My Instagram is just Marlon and Prechtinger. It's just my name. That's pretty much the only social media I use.
ENPRECHTINGER.
13 letters, don't forget it.
13 letters. But yeah, thank you guys so much, and we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
Bye.